The pressure's really heating up on Nancy Pelosi. Boy, Democrats are coming out against her. Republicans are coming out against her. White House is coming out against her. Coalitions and caucuses are coming out against her. Even the lobsters just don't really like her anymore. My cats and my dogs that watch this channel are just, every time her name comes up, they just leave the room. A lot of pressure for one person in a given week. If there was ever a time for her to have a pot bill to relax, it's about right now. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope you're good and safe in a day in which, boy, it's good to be here. It's good that you're there. But Nancy Pelosi's probably not happy. She's in Washington. Thank you for joining me for Afternoon to LALATE every day at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. And starts with a check, then goes to hazard pay, this video, then FPUC, and finally rent. Big developments on hazard pay and the future of hazard pay. Will it exist or will it fall apart? And where will it land in a local jurisdiction as well? You guys stay with me for that in this video. A lot of big developments. If there was ever time to like and subscribe, it might be today. Go to the Funnest channel and hit the subscribe button. We're adding about, 3,000-4,000 viewers per day. We're at 254,000 viewers. First channel to ever reach 250,000 in 4 months. What an incredible achievement. And also like this video. It helps it for the algorithm. Drop your comments below. I might feature them in tomorrow's recording. Incredible details today about hazard pay and where it could be going, where it could not be going, and what you should look for when we're talking about hazard pay. In the context of major developments just this afternoon, there's so much changing with second stimulus. In the last few hours, it's a little bit overwhelming for a lot of viewers. So I'm going to slow it down. Even though I covered some of this in the video right before this, I'm going to slow it down and give you some more details, and especially in the context of hazard pay. First, where is hazard pay for all extensive purposes when we're talking about Congress, legislative action by Congress? It's really only in one place right now. That is in a bill from the Democrats that no one is supporting that looks ostensibly dead. The HEROES Act, that is that insanely overdrawn, badly executed bill from Nancy Pelosi that is never going to see the time of day as written, has hazard pay in it. Now, there is another hazard pay bill out there, the Mitt Romney plan, which I absolutely adore, and I've told you to tweet Mitt Romney and vocalize your support. It's a standalone bill introduced to the Senate by the Republican senator that calls for hazard pay, where the employer must apply for hazard pay for you and gives you hazard pay if you worked as an essential worker during the pandemic all the way up to the present. It's an incredible, great bill. It's a bill that you support. You should tweet Mitt Romney and vocalize your support for it. But is that bill by Romney going anywhere at the moment? Is there any real big traction? When I refer to traction, I mean, press coverage or any activity on it. No, I mean, there's really not a lot of activity on it right now. The thing that does have activity on it, which I told you is going to have activity on it, is one of 3 bills which you're going to see in the next few days. The first one was introduced yesterday and literally is everywhere today. Everyone's coming out in support about it. I don't care what the Temple of Doom says about it because she's made a fool of herself today. More about her in a second. It's the Problem Solvers Caucus bill. It's an incredibly great bill because it includes second stimulus, unemployment benefits, stimulus checks for exactly what you would want for adult dependents, minor dependents, doesn't take account for child support, FPUC at $400 a week and then $600 a week. It's absolutely incredible. EIDL money, PPP money in it, money for food, money for city and state. Everything is in there, with the exception of one thing: hazard pay. There's no hazard pay in the bill. And you know who I ultimately am going to blame for that? Is one person. And that one person is the Temple of Doom. When the problem solvers were drafting this bill, they started their process 6 weeks ago. And they could have heard about hazard pay at the time when I first detailed on them, I told you back in July that they were going around Washington meeting with the people who are negotiating for your second stimulus package that you would hope has hazard pay in it. And so who do they meet with? They went to Mark Meadows, and he was willing to meet and had a great conversation with them. He had confirmed his conversations with them. He had several conversations with them, and they took his suggestions and went back and put them in the bill. Of course, he's not going to suggest hazard pay because hazard pay is not generally a Republican platform. It has never been in Mitch McConnell's bill. It's never been introduced by Mark Meadows. It's never been talked about by Steve Mnuchin. The president has talked about providing money for frontline workers, but he's never put a value on it or called it hazard pay. Ultimately, the people that could get you hazard pay refused to meet with them. Nancy Pelosi, the Temple Doom, refused to meet with them when asked about hazard pay. And so the net result was that when they went to go draft that bill, they had no input from her. They had no input from her as to what should be in the bill. And the net result was, when the bill was debuted yesterday, no hazard pay in it. No hazard pay in it. This is why you don't ignore people. The Temple of Doom's position has been ignore everyone, tell everyone to go fly a kite, don't come in my office, I'm not going to let you in. She literally doesn't let people in. I'm not going to meet with you, I'm not going to return your phone call, I'm not going to talk with you, you sign my bill or else, or else. That's not the way you negotiate. It's not the way you advocate. Because ultimately, not talking about something makes people not realize whether or not it's important for you. And what I've singularly told you when I talk about hazard pay over the last couple of months is that no one was talking about hazard pay from the Democratic caucus. You know, as we sit here as the Purple Power, people who are both Republicans that caucus with Purple Power and Democrats that caucus with Purple Power, we are both bipartisan people from two different parties that both agree upon getting stimulus out to people that really need stimulus right away. We're not worried about things like the debt and crazy things like that. We're worried about Americans being homeless. We're worried about people having food on their table. We're worried about people not having enough money to survive on. We also were worried about that no one of the Democrats were talking about hazard pay. And ultimately, it came back to bite them. Today, Nancy Pelosi was, waving her hands and doing all that and fixing her hair that doesn't really move. And yesterday she said, I reject. Well, good, you reject. Guess who did not reject today? The president. The president came out in favor of the problem solvers bill. Came out in favor of its provisions and came out in favor of its amount for $1.5 trillion. And that's what I told you was going to happen. I had told you it was going to happen because I told you Mark Meadows gave them what he wanted in there. And I told you the president was going to go to $1.5 trillion. But the next thing I did not see coming. The president is now telling the Republicans to support the bill as well. He's telling his party to get off their butts and support the bill. You see how if the Temple of Doom had simply just met with them and said, hazard pay is very important to us. It's very important to the Democratic leadership. Let's put hazard pay in there. These are frontline workers who worked in the pandemic. They're entitled to hazard pay. It's not really a partisan type of thing, hazard pay. You have Mitt Romney. He has hazard pay. Our bill's like Mitt's. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. If she had told them about that, there would have been hazard pay in the bill. Instead, she locked her door and refused to meet with anyone, and now there's no hazard pay in the bill. So is hazard pay dead for purpose of legislative efforts as we sit here today? Yes. I don't think hazard pay is going to see the light of day from a legislative perspective when you're talking about what is going on right now. Now, there's always the possibility that if you support the Romney bill, that Romney starts talking about, that he gets the umph and it starts getting front page news. That is really the only possibility right now. But here's the other great news. Local hazard pay. The scandal which this channel unfolded in the last few days, it started on Saturday, is a scandal I've never seen of my entire existence, where states were given $150 billion under CARES Act 1 fund to be provided to you for rent, for food, for stimulus, for hazard pay, and haven't used it. 90% of the money is unaccounted for, not being used. It's sitting in the bank, not being used. Some of them have a 50% approach to what they're doing now, and the other 50% have a different approach. What are the two approaches? One of the approaches is not to use any of the money, and it's going to just lapse. It's just going to fall apart, and it's going to be reappropriated and taken back by Washington. The other half realizes it's a use or lose situation, and in the lose is literally just weeks away. So they're rushing to send out grants right now, whether it's stimulus, hazard pay, rent, food. They're sending out the grants right now. Whether you're in a city or a county, they have a lot of money, and I just don't mean $100,000. I mean millions, tens of millions, or hundreds of millions of dollars they have to spend right away. It's almost like an unconscionable task to spend that type of money in such a short period of time, especially when you have to have the people apply and all that type of stuff. But they're rushing to do it. So amongst all this craziness, this is the great news. You need to keep your ears and your eyes open and look for that grant money. You need to go on Google. You need to look for news articles. You need to search for your city, state, or county plus CARES Act, C-A-R-E-S Act plus grant. And you'll be surprised what you'll find. It could be rent, it could be food, it could be hazard pay. It will be out there. Someone has asked me, is there a website I can find all the grants? No. Is there a link that I can find what my state is doing? No. Is there a cohesive organizational structure that says this and that? And no. It's so disorganized. It is so ad hoc. It is so bat crazy, for choice of a better word, that a lot of these programs are being unapportioned, are being unused. They're launching them and no one's applying for them because they don't know they exist. Literally what's happening is they're doing something, city, county, state, having a news article with one or two news reporters locally, and they say, hey, we launched this, and that's it. If you miss the news article, you don't know it exists. It's as simple as that. And so you're looking for news articles to find you that hazard pay. There, unfortunately, is no singular website that keeps track of everything on a local basis. There's no way to track it. What you need to do is find it. And that's really the spirit of the Purple Power. I mean, we're not partisan. We're here to find relief. And Kevin Lee did that. Kevin Lee, an earlier viewer of this channel, an OG from the very, very beginning, he found a version of this when it was launched earlier. This is in the case of a state that got CARES Act money, Texas, and didn't just hold on to it like other states, like Hawaii, but actually started to spend the money. The money went to a local jurisdiction where he is in South Texas. He heard on the local news late in the afternoon an announcement of a grant program. He went and applied for the grant program. He didn't hear anything about it for weeks. He assumed he didn't get it, and then suddenly got a notification. He got it. How would he have known about the grant program otherwise? I couldn't cover it. I can't cover these random things. I covered Waco, Texas out of nowhere yesterday, because I just saw it somewhere. Waco, Texas grant program. This is, okay, just launched 2 days ago. He saw it on the local news. He doesn't recall ever seeing it mentioned ever again, except maybe in one or two news articles locally. That was it. So if you missed it, you would never apply. It's that type of spirit of the Purple Power. Finding what's yours, getting it right away, and applying for it. There's a lot of hope and there's a lot of optimism. A lot of things can still change on a legislative perspective from Washington, but what you need to understand is that hazard pay, its real focus now is getting that grant locally, from state and local, from that $150 billion that's allocated under CARES Act 1. If there was a time to like and subscribe to the channel, it might be today. Go to the Funnest channel and subscribe and drop your comments below. I might feature them in tomorrow's recording, and then like this video. It really helps on the algorithm. Coming up next, big, huge, insanely great developments about unemployment assistance. What a great day it has been. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay at LA for more.